cop who put his badge on the line for justice.
You know the name Doug Poppa?
Yes, I do. God bless Doug Poppa, an honest cop.
I was elated, of course, but then as he testified, I was somewhat concerned for him, because I knew that they were probably going to crucify that man.
Sometimes the truth has a price. That may be the lesson of a Virginia police officer who says, in trying to do the right thing, he ended up paying for it.
The message you're sending is, see, we did it, Doug. You don't come out, you don't buck the system. No matter what the reason is, you just can basically keep your mouth shut. But if I wouldn't do it all over again, I would take the badge and I would leave it on somebody's desk and get out of police work. Because the day I can't tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, and the day the system doesn't want me to tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, is the day I'd leave the badge on the desk and walk away.
Poppa was fired for insubordination. One man who confronted truth and consequences.
From Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Doug Poppa, Truth and Consequences Podcast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 100. This is my 100th episode. I started my podcast back in May of 2020. So today I was thinking, what should I do for 100? Well, a lot of people have been asking me, they want to hear more about what I went through when I was on the police department and other events that happened in my life. And I was going to work on something like that for the 100th episode, but I had a short audio podcast today with legendary NYPD Detective Frank Serpico. So 30 minutes long, and I said, that's it. That's my 100th episode. Because when I started this podcast back in May of 2020, Frank was the second person for my podcast. I did an interview with them back in May 20. It was podcast number 2. Podcast number 1 was my story on the still unsolved Las Vegas 2016 Land Kaufman double homicide. And that case, as you know, if you've been following my work, is still unsolved. And for those people who don't know, I wrote as an investigative journalist for almost 5 years for the Baltimore Post-Examiner prior to starting my podcast. And I did 165 stories on the 2017 Las Vegas massacre, more than any other journalist in the country. We broke one story after another while I was writing for the Baltimore Post-Examiner. Started my podcast, like I said, in May of 2020. So appreciate the support. I will be doing something on events that happen in my life. A lot of people know what happened, but I keep, I can write a book 2,000 pages long. So I will be doing that on some upcoming episodes. But right now, here's my audio interview with Frank. It's about 30 minutes long, like I said. It occurred just a couple hours ago. Hope you enjoy it. If you don't, then I have no control over that. Hope you do. Remember, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the red subscribe button. I have audio podcast of all my episodes from 1 to 100 available on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Google Podcast, and several other platforms. Support my independent investigative journalism, if you can, at paypal.me/Doug Poppa. Appreciate the support. Have a lot of interesting stories coming up. We're breaking more stories related to the Las Vegas massacre that I've never published before. Other stories I'll be breaking concerning the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And I just want people to understand this. I get information from police officers who work for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. They give me information that I verify, and I break these stories. And I want to say this again, because I want people to understand something. I lost my job over 30 years ago as a cop because of corruption and misconduct by the Loudoun County Sheriff at the time, John Isom, and some of his cohorts, and the prosecutor for the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, the Loudoun County prosecutor, his name was William Birch. So a lot of my stories that I do concern police corruption and cover-ups, because I lost a 12-year police career for doing absolutely nothing but getting on the stand and testifying to the truth. So we'll get into that again on some upcoming podcast. Here's my interview with Frank. Frank is a living legend. Remember, first police officer in American history to come out and expose widespread police corruption in a police department, which was his own police department, the NYPD. That was over 50 years ago. Hope you enjoy it, and there's much more to come. And I hope you like these videos that I'm doing now when I'm speaking. Got a lot of people saying you always do audio podcasts, even when you do your video podcasts, and we don't see you. Here's what I look like. Not much to look at right now, but this is who I am. Hope you enjoy the podcast, and much more to come. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Every time they questioned me, they tried to prove that what I was saying was untrue, rather than take the attitude that allow me to assist them in an investigation. He informed me about the pad.
Now, the pad, what is a pad? How do you define it?
A pad is a systemized pickup of monies from gamblers in order to give them immunity from arrest. We must create an atmosphere in which the dishonest officer fears the honest one, and not the other way around. I hope that this investigation, and any future ones, will deal with corruption at all levels within the department, and not limit themselves to cases involving individual patrolmen. I hope that police officers in the future will not experience the same frustration and anxiety that I was subjected to for the past 5 years at the hands of my superiors because of my attempt to report corruption.
Okay, today's Thursday, March 10, 2022. It's about 16:40 hours, 4:40 p.m. Pacific time. And on the line, I have legendary NYPD Detective Frank Serpico, retired. How you doing tonight, Frank, out there in New York? How you doing?
I'm doing lovely. Thanks for asking, and always a pleasure to be on your podcast, the only podcast that doesn't edit and has an agenda.
Well, I appreciate it. What's going on in your life out there? I know you got a lot of bad weather up there in upstate New York. What else is going on there?
I can't complain about the weather. You know, it's really amazing. The birds that migrate and then they come into a snowstorm, and somehow somebody tells them this is the only place they can refuel. And I put it on Twitter. It's really just unbelievable. It's like, it's got to be like a miracle that these birds that flew hundreds of miles and come and they have nothing to eat and they survive, you know?
Oh, wow.
So I always take pleasure in nature, and which I find lacking in the human race. And I say that out of 85 years of experience.
Right. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. There's something about nature and animals that just separates them from us humans. And, you know, always had pets. I don't have one now because I'm in the apartment, but I always had some form of pet, whether it was a cat, a rat, or a tarantula, something. You know, people used to come in the house, and when I had the tarantula years ago, and, you know, they're freaking out. It was in the cage and stuff. And I said, you know what, you people are like, because, you know, it has the legs and the 6 eyes and everything. It's something to be afraid of. And, you know, I'm not just using that as an example. It's something when the people don't understand something. Go ahead.
Fear always comes from ignorance. And I was just thinking tonight, before you called, that why do people let religion, any religion, control their mind? It really baffles me. But we'll leave that for another time. I think we wanted to talk about my Medal of Honor certificate.
Right. Yeah, I got a lot of the last podcast we were on. We did the podcast on your I think it's over 1,500 views very quickly on it, and a lot of positive comments. I don't get any negative comments from anybody when we do these podcasts. I know there's people out there, cops and stuff, who are retired or present or have family members that,
I tell you, I really don't care what kind of comments we get, because even the negative ones, they give you an indication of the way some people think. And,
right.
Everyone is entitled to their opinions. But, the other day I was talking to a reporter, and people call me, they want to do interviews. And I'm not in the mood, because somehow they're not capable of, or they have an agenda, and they don't want to publish what you say. But anyway, this guy he's a nice guy. But he said to me, "What do you care about whatever? You got your medal there, certificate, you're hanging on the wall. Look at it and take pleasure in, what you accomplished." And so I'm looking at this certificate and the medal, and it says, Medal of Honor, Detective Frank Serpico, January 1st, 2022, signed Commissioner Sewell. And I thought, wait a minute. Commissioner Sewell, the new New York City Police Commissioner, who's all over the media, as rightfully she should be when her cops do something good, but, not for just taking a gun off the street. I mean, I'm sure you and I have taken bags of guns off the street.
Right.
The commissioner come and, that's all well and good, but I'm leading up to something. She issues the Medal of Honor and doesn't say, or I don't want to put words in her mouth, but if I was a new commissioner and I'm issuing the Medal of Honor, I would say something like, it gives me great pleasure as the new commissioner of New York City Police Department to issue this Medal of Honor and certificate that Detective Serpico earned in the line of duty. Period. That's all.
Right. She didn't say that.
Nothing.
Wow.
She said zip. So I go on Twitter and I say, does anybody find it odd? And one guy comes up, and this is why I say, I don't care if you're pro or against. I like to hear the other opinion. You got your medal? Why don't you shut up? Some a-hole who says he's the captain of something, I don't know what. I don't know who these people are, but I assume most of them are cops or ex-cops. And she doesn't have time for you. And I say, hello? I don't curse him out or nothing. I talk to him like he's a person that maybe is ignorant and doesn't know all the facts. And I said exactly what I said before. She doesn't have time. It's not me. It's the Medal of Honor.
Right.
It's what my brothers and sisters did the ultimate sacrifice for. It's what I shed my blood for. That's what it is. It's not about me. And then some other person comes on. You're a misogynist racist. You talking like that to the first black police commissioner? And I said, whoa, wait a minute. who's the racist here?
So she's the first black
What the
female commissioner. She's not the first black commissioner.
Black or female or a Martian have to do with integrity.
Right.
And I say, good. They just exposed themselves as the racist they are. And so then I go on Twitter and I says, I throw myself at the court of public opinion. What do you think of this tweet, this person? Boom, the tweet's gone. They didn't have the courage to leave it up there and, face, their ignorance. But then they go and they talk to their friends. And so anyway, that's the way it is.
You bring that up, and it brings up a good point, because just using Commissioner Sewell or Sewell, I don't know how you pronounce her name, Sewell or Sewell, but she's the commissioner of the largest police department in the country, and it would have gone great measures if she would have come out and made a short, brief statement, and made a statement that she's not going to put up with police corruption and misconduct. And I find it not only with the NYPD, but with a lot of police departments where they're run by police chiefs or law enforcement agencies run by sheriffs, is they don't, very few, I can't say all because some of them have, but the majority of these law enforcement leaders running these law enforcement agencies don't want to come out and make statements like that because they think it's going to offend the cops on their, or the police officers or law enforcement officers on their agencies, going to offend them. And a couple of cops have already told me that, about what goes on out here with the Las Vegas Metro Police. And I said, all these police departments in the country, whether large or small, they all had problems and they continue to have problems with corruption, misconduct, bad shootings, or whatever. And people say, well, it's not the majority of the law enforcement officers in this country. And they're right, but it doesn't make a difference, because when one cop from any law enforcement agency in the United States does something wrong, it tarnishes the badge of every law enforcement officer in this country. And I don't...
Well,
go ahead.
What it is, it's like you say, the chiefs, the commissioners that allow this type of behavior to manifest. And I've had that with just about every commissioner since I retired, which is over 50 years. And the first one was Murphy, who supposedly promoted me, which in reality he didn't, because I was up for grade automatically after 4 years in plain clothes. And then he writes a book and says, I don't think promoting Serpico was the right thing to do.
Right.
And he does that in order to ingratiate himself with the rest of his department. And therefore, he gives the signal, don't blow the whistle, don't break the blue code of silence.
Right.
And so I hold the commissioners and the chiefs and the mayors responsible for this, because the average cop knows what happens if he tries to expose corruption. He is, or she is going to be the object. And like this sergeant in Illinois, Javier, I forget, I don't want to misspell his name, but he's a sergeant that he exposed corruption, and now he might be facing 36 years in jail because he broke some department rule when he went and examined the files and came up with camera footage that shows the cops actually killed the suspect.
Right.
and he was only doing his job because he was a sergeant, and some, I hate to have to say good cops, came up to him and said, "Sarge, that's not what happened. That guy," and he said, "What do you mean? They got it on video there. The guy choked, and it's a case closed." Because he would not believe that cops would do such a thing. And then they came back to him and said, "Sarge, we got the footage. You got to see it." So he went and examined the files, and he found the footage that they choked the guy to death, and so now he's in trouble because he went and looked at department files. But the guys that killed the guy, they get off. And so, unfortunately, this is the behavior that perpetuates, and then the whole department and police in general get a bad name, because you're only as good, as the last incident. And it's very unfortunate, and that we have chiefs and commissioners that don't have the courage or the integrity to do the right thing.
And that's what it's all about, Frank. When, this is my opinion, my belief. People don't agree with it, that's fine. They're entitled to their own opinion. But, it starts at the top of the law enforcement agency. And whether, like I said, whether it's commissioner, police chief, sheriff, or whatever, if you lack morality, and integrity, and you're running a law enforcement agency, and your supervisors, your rank and file officers know that you've engaged in cover-ups, you lie to the press all the time, many times, and they look at it like, well, if our boss, our leader of this agency is in effect corrupt, because that's what you are when you engage in cover-ups to protect yourself or certain individuals on the department where they're rank and file officers, but they have, connection with the brass or their supervisors, then that fizzles all the way down to the bottom. And I'm not making an excuse for cops who do wrong, but it starts at the top. If you have a leader who says, "I am not going to tolerate misconduct, corruption, anybody on this department who tarnishes the badge, I will go after you, and I don't care if it's my assistant chief, undersheriff, deputy chiefs, inspectors, or whatever, you will not be working on this police department or this law enforcement agency or sheriff's office." And very few, I've seen one or two over the years that came out and made statements like that, but very few.
But no, Doug, I got to say something, some of your listeners may not like. I agree with everything you're saying, but somebody just, a police lieutenant just sent me something about, they have this work class stage, where they have 7 cops and 7 people from the community, play acting so that, they could build better relationships. And one of the cops made a statement that if I was the commissioner, of course I couldn't do it because he's a civil service employee, I would tell him, "You know what? Why don't you turn in your badge and go join the sanitation department? And you might do a better job there." Because this cop, and it resonated with me, that something a captain told me before I even became a cop. I was a student at Brooklyn College. I was studying police science, and it was mostly cops in my class. And I had a cop, one of them in my class was a captain. And he was kind of like taking me under his arm, and we were leaving, and he said, "Hey, kid," and he opened his coat. He said, "You see, no gun." And he hit his own pocket, and he said, "No shield." And I'm like, Doug, I was shocked. I said, what? He says, when I'm off duty, I put my gun and my shield in the locker, and that's it. And I have to say, he did give me a reason. He said, because on this job, you get involved off duty, and they're going to come after you if you get involved in something. And I've had incidences like that myself, which I can relate to you later. But getting back to 2022, this cop in this workshop says, 9 to 5, I leave my badge and my gun in the locker. And I thought, what? Where do you get this state of mind? I was told in the academy, and I believed it, you are now a police officer in the city of New York, which gives you authority all over the city. I don't think they had the expression yet, 24/7. But they said 24 hours a day, every day of the week. And I believe that. And I made some of my best arrests when I was off duty.
Right.
Because I was a cop. I was sworn to protect and serve. It didn't say only 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or 4 to 12 or 12 to 8. And that's where we are. And even I was talking on the phone just yesterday to a retired police sergeant. And he said the same thing. Nah, I only get paid for, and that's the attitude. He says, yeah, I became a cop because I needed a job. What do I care about? So that's it. Somehow the police fails to attract people who truly want to protect and serve the community. And maybe because it's the attitude people have about police,
Mm-hmm.
I think police is one of the most honorable professions anyone could have. First of all, not only how you're taken care of, with your, if you get injured or you have all the medical, and I still have my insurance to this day, dental, all kinds of insurance. And you have to go out and be a crooked cop? Why? You're not happy with a roof over your head and food on your table and a family that respects you? And it should be a city that respects you. But they don't have that respect because you have, I don't care how many it is, who crap on your uniform and you let it happen for one reason or another.
That's true. Very true. Very true. And I was talking to a cop the other day, and we were talking basically about the same thing. And I said, yes, not every cop in the country is corrupt. Not every cop goes out, wakes up in the morning, and says, I'm going to go out and kill somebody because I want to kill somebody. But there are corrupt cops. There are people wearing badges in police departments and law enforcement agencies all over this country that have no damn business wearing the badge. And the problem I have is, like you said, cops allow other cops to get away with corruption and misconduct, even if they themselves are not corrupt or doing anything wrong, because they have this.
Doug,
go ahead.
We are at a stage now where I don't think there's any turning back. And it's not the cop in the street's fault. It's the society, it's the agencies they work for, or the people that head those agencies. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, but there's this psycho out there who is getting paid to teach at police academies. And I forget what his thing is. Cop. I don't remember the expression he uses, but he's talking about killing. That it's okay to kill. That actually, after killing a human being, you have the best orgasm in your life.
Jesus Christ.
Now, they have this psycho. I know there is a connection between killing and testosterone. I've heard it from friends of mine, and just there's some strange phenomena that happens, but you don't have to brag about it and teach it to cops like they're in a war zone.
That's another thing, and I get a lot of emails when I say this, and people, I don't care what people say, I don't care what people think, but, I was a cop, I'm in police work for over 30 years, okay? 70s, 80s, early 90s, that was my time. And I get sick and tired of hearing these cops on these talk shows and these podcasts crying the blues all the time that, well, the city or society, it doesn't love us. We lock them up and the perp's back on the street in a couple of hours. And it's got to change. We're in 2022, okay? Get a life, guys, because, and ladies, if you don't want to be in the police profession because it's in your heart, then do everybody a favor and get the hell out. Because when I was a cop 30 years ago, it was a revolving door justice. People didn't, I'm not saying everybody, there were a lot of people in the community that respected us, but there's always that part of the community that hates law enforcement. That is never going to change. We are human beings. We live in a human race society. So these cops that get on these shows and cry the blues and say there's a war, I hate this term, there's a war on police. Listen, I said this many times. There is no war on police, okay? They make it sound like every cop who goes out and puts their uniform on and gets out of the house in the morning is going to be assaulted or shot. There's approximately, by my last account, if you believe what's on these polls and these research groups, there's about 900,000 law enforcement officers in this country, okay? The majority of law enforcement officers go to work and come home every day safely. It is a safe profession. It's not even in
there's statistics out there that actually show that policing is not the most dangerous occupation as these wannabes want you to believe.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, let me say that, because I was going to say that before I got interrupted. It's not even the top 10, Frank. It's not even in the top 10 list of the most dangerous jobs in the United States. Police work is not even in there. And these constant crybabies, okay, it's not your job to worry about when you lock somebody up, if the criminal justice system, the way it is going to turn around and get the guy back out on the street or bail. That is not your worry. I know it bothers cops and it bothered me, but that didn't stop me from going out and doing my job. My job was to enforce the law, protect the community. And if I lock somebody up for a crime, and he's in jail, and he's out 8 hours later or the next day, I have no control over that. Only control which you have in your profession to control, and that is to police and keep the community safe and treat people with respect. And the majority of law enforcement officers in this country, and this is statistics to prove that, spend their whole career without ever firing their weapon. And some of them, you work in different areas in different parts of the country that are more violent, and of course, you may get into shootings, but the majority of law enforcement officers never fire their weapons after retiring for 20, 25 years. That is proven. So, they get on this war. There is no war on cops, guys. Listen, if there was a war on police, you'd have cops getting shot every minute of every hour of every day. And that is not the case. There is always going to be criminals in society. From the first time somebody pinned on a badge, sheriffs in the 1800s and deputies all the way up till now, there's always going to be a criminal element in society, and we need police in the community to protect society from the bad people. That is never going to change. But there is no war on police. Every time something happens, it's like there's some organized group in this country that's telling people to go out and kill cops. And that is not the case today. It is not the case. That is not there. Cops get killed.
Anyway, I'm going to have to cut to the quick. And it told me it was just going to be a little short thing. And got me by surprise. It was sort of off the cuff. But I just want to say in closing that I think a lot of cops would be alive today if they stood off their cell phone. Because when you're on duty, and if you think you're at war, you don't get on your cell phone and start chatting away like you're laying on the beach in Miami. And it should be a violation of your duty to be talking on your private phone while you're on duty. It's unheard of. This would be tantamount to you and I, when we were cops, to go into a phone booth and start yakking with, our girlfriend, our family. It just should not be accepted. And as I said, it's for your own health. But
that's very well said, Frank. And I know we're going to cut it off here in a couple of minutes. I just want to say something. I did a podcast a couple of weeks back, and it was about a Las Vegas Metro police officer who fell asleep while on airport duty at McCarran International Airport, which is now called Harry Reid. And they changed the policies, and the cops out here who work at the airport are all upset because now he was watching a movie on his cell phone while at the police podium and fell asleep with the movie playing on the phone, and there was an off-duty deputy chief from Las Vegas Metro who was traveling and caught him. And they changed the policy now that you can't be on your cell phone. But I'm thinking, it's just ridiculous, is that you have to put a policy out like that when you should know better from the start, is that if you're working on duty, what the hell is he looking at a movie on his cell phone for? Especially at the airport checkpoint, the TSA checkpoint. He's there for security reasons. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out there.
All right, Doug. Well, always a pleasure. And someday we got to do a podcast about some of my experience with law enforcement in foreign countries. A little bit more on the lighter side, because there's a lot of humor in policing and things that police do and are allowed to do in foreign countries that would never be permitted here in big agencies. But again, to clarify, I'm talking about, the big agencies in particular. There are always little agencies where you might have more control with fewer men. So there are a lot of variables. So we can't just paint with a broad brush, as they say. All right, Doug, thanks. Always a pleasure. And keep up the good work, because nobody else seems to be doing it or have the stomach for it. And, good cops need an outlet to express themselves, because it's very frustrating, because it's so ingrained into our system that the media doesn't want to get it, and most cops that have been, career cops they don't want to get it. It becomes something that you just don't talk about what other cops are doing. As the most dirty cop, Michael Dowd, said, and now they're making another movie about it. So thanks, and to all your listeners, and hopefully we'll do this again.
Very well, Frank. You have a good night. And ladies and gentlemen, that was legendary NYPD Detective Frank Serpico, the first police officer in American history to come out and expose widespread police corruption in a police department, and that was the NYPD over 50 years ago. Thanks, Frank, and always a pleasure. We'll do this again.
Thanks for having me, Doug.